How's it going, you outlaw legends? I'm Red Nitrate, and welcome into my video covering 5 of the most necessary gameplay and mechanic upgrades that I feel we all need most in the upcoming GTA Trilogy Remastered release. Ever since the remasters of Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City and San Andreas were announced, it's been on my mind constantly, and it got me thinking, what would I most like to see upgraded in the definitive edition of the trilogy? These games were undeniably amazing and far ahead of their time, but for all of that, they're now all roughly 20 years old, and some of the mechanics are really starting to show their age. To properly exhibit what I'm talking about, I'll mostly be using San Andreas for the backdrop of the video. However, the 5 changes being discussed are applicable to all 3 games, and in my opinion, they would greatly enhance their ease of use and playability. First thing we're looking at is mission checkpoints, which is why I decided to use everyone's favourite mission here to demonstrate why we need them implemented into the game so badly. In all of the 3D era games, if you failed at any point within a mission, even right near the very end, you were greeted with a mission failure screen, and were left stranded in whatever position you were last situated. This was not only very annoying, but it was also very time consuming, as you then had to travel all the way back to the mission trigger point just for the privilege of starting it all over again from the beginning, which can get incredibly infuriating. Failing a mission is bad enough, but add to that all of the travel time and the cutscenes, and it's utterly maddening. As I'm sure most of you know, mission checkpoints were only properly implemented in later games, primarily with The Ballad of Gay Tony and GTA 5. Here I've got an example from the latter where you're tasked with rescuing Michael's boat. This mission gave me a bit of trouble back when I first played it, but it's made a hell of a lot easier with checkpoints. You can see here that upon failure of the mission, you're presented with a screen like this, where you're given the option to try it again. And once selected, it loads us back up mid-mission from the last available checkpoint. Now, I do acknowledge that not everyone likes mission restarts and checkpoints, but at least this gives the player choices, which I feel is key in open world games like this. And in my opinion, it was a revolutionary addition to the Rockstar franchise, as it not only made missions a lot less frustrating to retry and complete, but it also enabled the developers to create increasingly complex and intricate missions that otherwise would have been deemed too difficult for a system without checkpoints. If we didn't have them, who knows the limitations that would have been faced in later titles, both by developers and by the players themselves. The next upgrade that I feel needs to be made in the remasters is to do with vehicle durability. As much as driving is one of my favourite in-game pastimes, the vehicles in GTA 3, Vice City and San Andreas were always annoyingly easy to blow up. In this clip, we've got some relatively basic impact damage. Okay, now I'm purposely ramming the car to show off my point. But as you can see here, it really doesn't take too many knocks for the vehicle to catch on fire and blow up, obviously rendering it completely useless. Then, God forbid this happens to you. You're just casually driving along, lose focus for a moment, hit something at a bit of an odd angle, and then bam, car flips, no way to get it the right way round, and then immediately it catches on fire, and yep, you guessed it, blows up. Yeah, great, thanks game. The vehicle's vulnerability to bullets is no better. As you can see here, it only takes mere moments for the cars to get blown to Kingdom Come. And in a game that involves a lot of driving and a lot of shootouts, this can get infuriating pretty damn quickly. If we again compare it to GTA 5, you can see that things are made at least a little more tolerable. Granted, this isn't the most powerful gun in the game, but just look at how many bullets you can pump into this car before it blows up. The difference is truly quite astonishing, and for me, it was one of the best changes that Rockstar ever made, and one that I feel is desperately needed in the definitive editions. And okay, I know what some of you are thinking. In GTA 5, you do have the option of shooting the gas tank to rapidly speed up the process. But that just really adds to the realism, and doesn't ever get in the way of mission objectives unless you're very unlucky. The next necessary change that I'm looking at is the cover system during shootouts, and well, in the original trilogy, there really wasn't one. Not a dedicated cover system like we know today anyway. There was no way to forcefully press yourself against a surface for protection like you can do in GTA 5, which is shown in this screenshot here. Without that at your disposal, your best bet was to run behind walls to try and avoid being shot, like I'm doing now. And it did work to a point, but it isn't exactly ideal for all situations, and could often get you killed depending on where the enemies were coming from. In GTA 3, that was literally the only option you had, running upright behind walls. Fortunately, in Vice City and San Andreas, they at least gave you the ability to crouch, and in San Andreas here, they also added the ability to roll, which did definitely improve things a little bit, and enabled you to kneel down behind shorter objects for a better range of cover. The most annoying part about it though, in my opinion, is that NPC gang members and police are able to fully utilise cover, as seen in this still. We've got a cop properly pressed up and crouched behind his police car, which is honestly just insulting if you ask me. Now, from what I hear, it's probably not as imbalanced as I originally thought it was. When reading up on the subject, I found out that when they introduced the first full cover system in GTA 4, the developers decided to increase the difficulty in the missions because of it. So the remasters might not necessarily need a new cover system, but with it being so commonplace in modern games, I feel it would be a nice familiar touch that would enhance things quite a bit. This next item has been a thorn in my side for the longest time with the older games, and that's a lack of GPS navigation. Now, I always find a way and eventually get used to it, but I'm sure most of you are familiar with this situation. On your way to your destination, trying to find your next turnoff, only to be greeted with this: a bloody dead end. Super annoying, super time consuming, and something that I hope we don't have to deal with in the remasters. If we look on the San Andreas map, you can see here when you place a waypoint, it simply doesn't give you a path to your destination, whether it's here on the big map or on the mini map when you're driving. Now, okay, this is to do with realism. I mean, they didn't really have GPS in the 90s when this game was set, but it's become a modern convenience that we've all gotten very used to. And if we compare it to GTA 5, you can see how things have changed for the better. We now have clear directions to get us where we need to go. Granted, it's not always the shortest route, but at least you won't get lost. Not only does it save frustration and time wasting, but it's also a lot more immersive in my opinion. It allows you to just sit back and cruise along comfortably without having to worry about every little bend in the road. You appreciate the landscape a lot more and really take it all in on a completely different level. And honestly speaking, it's a creature comfort that I would very much appreciate in the remasters. The final upgrade that I'm looking at and that I feel really needs implementing in the trilogy is the drive-by shooting mechanics in all three games. This is one of those things that always irritated the hell out of me, and it never really improved as the 3D era titles progressed. The only option that was ever given to you while driving was shooting out the left or right hand side of the vehicle with no means of aiming other than the position of your car. This made it next to impossible to be precise and was incredibly annoying to say the least, especially when you were trying to complete missions that required the use of the mechanic. Things were slightly improved in both Vice City and San Andreas, where they at least gave you the option of performing front-on drive-bys with a motorbike. This was indeed a nice touch, as it allowed you to at least see where you were going while you were wreaking havoc. But this wasn't always possible depending on what mission you were doing at the time, and you were often forced to do it behind the wheel of a car, which greatly limited the experience. Strangely enough, in San Andreas there is a cheat that enables a very rudimentary form of 360 rotation for drive-bys. If you enter the cheat "I want to drive by," you will pop up out of the car and be able to aim while shooting. Great, you may say, problem solved, but is it? While it does allow you to aim while driving, you can see why it's a cheat-only option and not a fully fledged feature. When you move too quickly or react in a way that the game doesn't expect, the vision and the aim gets all wonky and quite hard to control, making it feel like quite the buggy mess if I'm honest. I'm not sure if they just hadn't fully developed the concept yet, and if this was maybe their way of first testing it out, but we didn't get to see a full 360-degree rotation for drive-bys until GTA 4 was released years later. To give you an idea of exactly what I'm talking about, here's some more footage from GTA 5, where as you can see, you can rotate the reticle wherever you want. giving you a full range of motion when shooting your gun while you're inside your vehicle. This makes drive-by shootings a hell of a lot more accurate, and honestly, once again, it also makes it a lot more immersive as well. Rather than fumbling around trying to guess the correct position of your car and getting shot to hell in the process, you can drive along like a boss and shoot things at will, and be able to direct your bullets exactly where you want them to go. This is particularly useful when you're up against the police and have merciless enemies swarming all around you. You can dodge them with ease and get all of the tasty headshots that your heart desires at the same time, which is a lot more efficient and, let's face it, a lot more satisfying as well. But yeah, that just about does it for today, folks. Obviously, I could prattle on about this for hours. I'm totally obsessed with these games, but I can't exactly do that. So I tried to pick up on the things that I most want to see changed, and I'm hoping that it will also be a good reflection of what the community feels should be improved as well. However, differing opinions are indeed the spice of life, so if you feel like I've missed anything, or if you have any thoughts on the changes that I've suggested, definitely hit me up in the comments down below. And as always, if you did enjoy this presentation, please hit that thumbs up button, and consider sharing the video out to anyone that you think might be interested in it. And if you are new around here, then you might want to think about subscribing as well. I'm going to be covering as much of the GTA Trilogy as I possibly can once it releases, and I'm looking forward to sharing it all with the community. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I am Red Nitrate. Stay legendary, everyone. Bye now.